live.
Okay.
Could be live.
It's good to be the king. So we go ahead? All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Three Guys Who Love Sports. My name is Chuck Burge, and I'm joined today by Russ, the Legend Phillips, and Robert Kenney, new guy on the block. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. This is Three Guys Who Love Sports, and today we are the Three Guys Who Love Sports. We're here again at Red Hair Brewery out on Delk Industrial Boulevard, and we appreciate them having us here. This show is basically to support those people that are suffering from prostate cancer, like a friend of mine, and all other people that are going through issues within their lives, especially the men that are having issues in their lives. And we want to help take their mind off of what's going on. We want to help you, too. We want to give you a part of the show. If you want to call in at 470-7-SPORTS, or text in at 470-7-SPORTS. That's 470-7-SPORTS. Or for you Georgia fans that can't read anything but numbers, that's 470-777-6787. 470-777-6787. And we're happy to have you on board. Russ, Robert, welcome. We have a plethora of things we're going to talk about this week, starting with the Final Four. Russ, how did you do last week?
Terrible.
Once again, Russ has shined.
It was awful for me. The thing I didn't want to happen is kind of the same teams we always seem to see: Duke, North Carolina, some school named Villanova, and Kansas.
They've been there a lot lately.
Unfortunately for the Villanova fans, you lost your best player. So Kansas will probably take that one.
We'll get into that. Robert, I know you. Actually, Robert, I had lunch with Robert a couple of weeks ago, and he texted in to the show that you chose Gonzaga too, didn't you?
I did the Zags over the Jayhawks.
Zags over the Jayhawks. Yeah, it's funny. I did some research today, and there were 54 so-called experts at ESPN that sent in their brackets. Out of the 54, 25 of them now have 0 picks in the Final Four. There are 2 that have 2 picks, and there is 1 that has 3 picks. And 25 of them have none, and whatever's left, they only have 1. And the only person they have is Kansas. So Kansas seems to be the most consistent team out there in terms of Final Four. 2 or 3 of them haven't picked to win it, but out of all the 54 experts on ESPN, only 1 has 3 left. So my point is I have 2 left. I am the only one, including the 54 experts, that has Duke in the Final Four. I had Duke, Purdue, Arizona, and Kansas, with Kansas being the winner. So I still have Kansas and Duke, and I got a shot at winning the whole thing with Kansas. So I'm pretty proud of that. And my whole point is, why aren't people paying attention to us, Robert, when we're just as intelligent as the guys on ESPN?
Clearly more intelligent.
Well, I don't know. But and to further that point, I didn't watch a basketball game this year until the weekend of the the conference championships. So I guess I'm just a quick learn because I watched some really cool things that went on that week and really liked Kansas and what they did, and that's one of the reasons I chose Kansas. I think it's going to be some interesting games this weekend. As Russ mentioned earlier, Villanova is Jamar Moore, I think. I know it's Moore. I can't remember what his first name is. He is their second leading scorer and probably their premier defensive player. And he is out with a torn Achilles. So that's obviously going to give Kansas an edge. I saw the Villanova coach last night on TV, and he was talking about their depth. They just don't have any. So the guy that is going to start for Moore played 78% of the bench minutes for Villanova.
Oh, there you go. That's always nice.
Yeah, so you got one guy that's playing 78. That means you only got 22% of the people that are on the bench that are going to play any time.
Going into the Final Four.
So, what are they going to do? Are they going to they get in foul trouble, they're toast, right?
Well, 2 games ago they only played 6 players the whole game. Last game they only did 7, so they're kind of already used to it.
Yeah, so they're now down to 6, right? Basically.
Correct.
Yeah, basically. So the one thing about the Kansas team that I really admire is the speed. They have a lot of speed on that team. They get up and down the floor like nobody's business. And when Jay Vaughn, is it Vaughn? Mm-hmm. The coach of Villanova was asked, he said, what's the one issue that you're going to have with Kansas? He said, more than anything else, it's the speed. Remy Martin. These guys are so quick getting the ball up the court, and I think they're going to wear down Villanova and beat them 10, 15 points. I don't know. Of course, Russ said last week, let me read this out loud. Russ, what does this say here? Providence will beat Kansas.
Yeah, I thought so. It was a close game, but yeah, no cigar. You only get close games in
Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah.
And taxes.
And taxes, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, it just,
So if we had to pick that game right now, you taking Kansas?
I'm taking Kansas over Villanova. Absolutely.
You taking Kansas over Villanova, or are you going to be rusty?
100%. Yeah,
Kansas over Villanova.
See, when you lose a player like that guy, I mean, now for Villanova, you've totally disrupted their team chemistry, and it is hard to beat a team with full chemistry and you're half chemistry. So yeah, I got Kansas blowing them out.
So you have to slow down the game. That's the only chance Villanova has, right? They have to slow down the game, not turn over the ball, and they have to make threes. Okay, so there you go. We have another semifinal game. We have Duke and North Carolina. Who knows the significance of this game?
Is there any?
There's plenty.
I think, aren't they like huge rivals? I mean, Tobacco Road is what we know about it from the ACC. So, huge rivals.
Well, there's even more than that, Mr. Legend. This is the first time that Duke and North Carolina have ever played in the NCAA tournament. That astounded me. Now, I know it's set up that way because you don't want them playing in round 2 or round 3, so at least till the Elite 8, but here they are in the Final 4 playing. But the other significant thing to me is, did you know that this will be the 100th game against North Carolina that Coach K has coached? Did you know that?
Actually, I had him down for this would be the 98th game.
Well, they said on ESPN it was number 100, and what they said was 50 wins for Duke and 49 wins for Carolina. So don't you think that North Carolina would love to send Coach K out without having a winning record against the Tar Heels?
Realize the end of the year, North Carolina beat Duke in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
The last game ever Coach K will coach there.
Last game ever coached.
You did last game ever coached in Cameron.
Or whatever. But anyway, they can do it. I just don't. I think the team's going to rally around Coach K, and they're going to beat North Carolina. So it should be, in my eyes, Kansas and Duke.
I think no matter who wins that game, it's going to be the most watched television basketball game on television in many, many years. It's so much historical significance from this game.
Absolutely. When you stop and you think about their close proximity, their hated rivals, everything else, they've never met in the tournament. You can go on down the line. I think North Carolina is on a heck of a run right now, but I think one of their biggest problems is going to be having won that last game at Cameron. I think if they would have lost that game, it kind of changes the narrative of this game maybe. Maybe they can sneak in a little bit more. They are in the middle of the crosshairs of the Duke Blue Devils at this point.
It's payback time, according to the Dukies. It's payback time.
So it's all about the momentum. If you look at it, nobody had North Carolina in the Final Four. None of the 54 on thing. I didn't have them in the Final Four. I can't remember who I had beaten them. I think maybe UCLA, but I don't remember. But nobody had Duke in the Final Four. None of the 54 people from ESPN had Duke in the Final Four. So
no, Chuck, I had Davidson. Then I had Davidson.
You had Davidson beating Duke, yeah. I wasn't going to bring that up today, Russ, but since you did,
I did. So I might as well. Hey, I was wrong.
I'll go ahead with that. Yeah. I don't know who I think is going to win that game. I think it's going to be a very well contested game. I think whoever wins is going to be at a disadvantage against Kansas because I think they're going to have a much harder game playing against one another than Kansas will against Villanova. Now, I don't want to count out Villanova. Jay Bond's a great coach, and they've done very well in the tournament. But I think Kansas has a distinct edge because of the speed and because of the depth. Kansas brings 4 or 5 guys off the bench that can play basketball. I think they swapped out all 5 1 week last week against Who did they beat so badly? Oh, Miami, against Miami. I mean, they were trailing Miami at halftime, and they came out and blew them away in the second half.
Only
like
gave
nothing
up
I've ever
15
seen.
points in the second half.
That's pretty incredible.
That's
isn't it?
pretty tough.
Yeah, that's a good basketball club, and they play defense too. They're not just an offensive basketball club; they can play some defense. So, I don't know if I had to pick. I think I'd like to see Carolina win, just to have that 50-50 thing. I'm not sure which one of ours is right, 50-47 or 50-49. Regardless, it's pretty stinking close.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, but I think either one of them that wins will be worn out from that game, and it's only a 2-day rest, right?
Correct.
Because the Final Four is on Saturday and the championship game's on Monday night. So this time next week we'll know who the National Basketball Championship. No, it's not basketball. College basketball championship is.
But you know something, Chuck? It was funny. I was also looking online this week. I know we've never talked about the girls basketball, but I looked, and at one time in the Final 8, there were more number 1 seed girls teams still in the tournament than there were in the men's. There was one, which was Kansas, and that was it. There were more number 1 seed girls teams in the Final 8 than men, which I thought was funny.
I watch a little girls college basketball, and I always find this to be true for the most part. The upper seeds throttle the lower seeds.
They really
And you're going to have a lot more 1 seeds and 2 seeds in there. Now, South Carolina, South Carolina. UConn beat North Carolina State, who was a number 1 seed over the weekend. So I watched a little bit of that game. But Gino is a pretty good basketball coach up there with the UConn girls. They're going to have a pretty good run, and they're in the Final Four against Stanford and a couple other teams. Stanford's a pretty good basketball team, but I don't follow girls basketball that closely.
But I thought it was funny that when you looked at that, to have any number 1 seeds.
Well, there's no parity in girls basketball like there is in men's basketball.
And there's the behemoths of women's
Right.
college basketball are so
Right.
big that there's, you get a lot of people who go to Purdue. Well, they don't go to Purdue in women's
Right.
basketball. They're going to the big schools.
Right.
They're going to the Stanfords, the Tennessees. Of course, Pat Summitt's long gone, but Dawn Staley, I think, is coaching there now, or she at South Carolina.
Notre Dame's been pretty good over the last few
Notre
years.
Dame girls, NC State's been good. Georgia Tech's had a decent girls team. So getting back to the championship game, so Robert, who do you think is going to win between Duke and Carolina?
I like Duke in a very close game. I think it could go a lot of different ways. It's kind of like the idea that no matter what the coaches decide to change, the other team's already seen it. These guys know each other forwards, backwards. They've been playing with each other since McDonald's All-American days, all the way through this stuff. So at this point in time, regardless of how much everybody wants to talk about the coaches, this one's about the players.
Yeah, and Duke is on a roll. They have said Duke is now the favorite to win the championship, which kind of blows me away. But they have been on a good roll. They have looked good. They will be fun to watch. So you've got Duke and Kansas in the finals?
I've got Duke and Kansas.
You've got Duke and Kansas in the finals? Who do you have winning the tournament?
I've got Kansas.
Rusty, do you still have Davidson? Or
I want to pull so much for Coach K, being his last year. And I said, if you'll remember, Chuck, I said, wouldn't it be fitting for Coach K to actually get there and then win the thing? But you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go with the team that I think is, like you say, it's all about speed. When you can run up and down the field and just absolutely score points, Kansas can do it. And I hope Duke wins. I really do. I'd love to see Coach K win one more before he leaves, but it's all about Kansas.
I think it's about Kansas too. I think Duke-Kansas would be the best game. They seem to match up better than the other two. Now, North Carolina's got a Bacon. Is that the guy's name? Macon. Had 15 rebounds
He did.
in one game. So
Yeah. Well, he played good against St. Peter's.
all right.
And but I think he's slow, and I think that's going to be his problem. Even if they beat Duke and it's North Carolina and Kansas, those Kansas players are going to run him ragged.
Well, we'll see. So we got 3 Kansases
3 Kansas.
So, all right, Kansas is going to win the tournament. And Russ going to sit out second. And Miss Molly's going to come in and talk to us a little bit about college basketball. No, I was kidding. Molly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's so much nicer to have you on set than Michael.
Thank you. I don't know if that's true, but thank you for having me.
Oh, you bet. So we saw you guys out at the Wine and Food Festival over the weekend.
Yes.
Looked like a great day, other than being a very, very windy day.
Very windy.
Yeah.
Yes. Michael said he had to hold the tent down as he was pouring beer. So
Yeah.
that was a sight. One-handed pour beer.
One-handed beer pouring. It should be a new Olympic sport. But and we also Pie Bar was in here earlier, and you guys are doing something with Pie Bar coming up. Tell us what that is, Molly.
Absolutely, I would love to. So this Friday we're releasing a new spiced rum. It's a pecan spiced rum. We made it specifically to do this collab with Pie Bar. They're doing a take on the hummingbird cake, springberry
I love
pie.
hummingbird cake.
Yeah, so it paired really, really nicely. It's delicious, warm with vanilla ice cream, and then we're creating a spring break cocktail to have at the still and also at the brewery with the spiced rum as well.
That's awesome. And something's coming up on the 23rd. Is that a bartending contest?
It is. We're having our spring fling event.
I pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. You're telling me more about what's going on here than I know. We're going to have a big bartending competition. Whichever cocktail wins is going to be on the menu, and it'll be really fun.
Awesome. So since we're on a sports show, Molly, do you enjoy sports?
I do.
What is your favorite sport?
It used to be golf. I love golf. I can go and watch any golf tournament any day.
Well, you know, next week's going to be an all-master show.
Yes, sir.
So we might have you on.
My
So who's your
calendar.
favorite golfer?
Well, my favorite golfer, it used to be John Daly because I met him. And then Cal Cavecchio was always really
Mark
nice
Calcavecchio,
to me.
good dude, yeah.
I have a ball signed by him. But right now, I would say it might be Jason Day.
Oh, he's cool, Dave. Yeah, Australian dude.
Yeah.
I like to listen to him talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's Red Hair. Red Hair will be giving out passes to the Masters next week. No, no, if they did, I would be getting them.
Wouldn't that be a dream?
Wouldn't that be awesome? Well, thanks for coming on board.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have somebody, a different face in here than Michael.
Yeah,
We'll see you soon. Thanks, Molly.
Thanks.
All right. We'll get into the Masters a little bit later on, but we're going to get into something now that's a little different. We're going to get into football, and big change over the weekend, or actually during the last couple of days. We now have a new overtime rule for the playoffs. Can you tell me what that is, Russ? Can you tell me what that is, Russ?
If you kiss your cousin, you get to keep playing?
That's it. No, no. The new overtime rule is now only eligible for the playoffs. Both teams now get the ball.
Now that works.
The owners voted for it 29 to 32, or 29 and 3 out of the 32 owners. But it's only for the playoffs. It doesn't take place during the regular season. It's just for the playoffs. And Russ, I'm not sure whether I like it or not.
You know, I do because, you know, and here's why I like it, because in college, when you go into overtime, both teams get the ball. And you gotta, you know, of course, if the team stops and then they get the ball, they can do one of two things: kick a field goal or try to score. You know, I've always not liked the pro overtime where one team gets the ball, and then if they go down and score, the other team does not.
If they score a touchdown.
Yeah, if they kick a field goal, they get
the ball. Yeah.
But if they score, the other team doesn't have that opportunity, and it is infuriating. When I watched pro football, it infuriated me to watch that, because I'm thinking you got to give both teams a shot at it. I mean, you know. So I'm glad. I mean, I think it's going to work, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see it in the playoffs, and the teams are going to like it, and you're going to see it in the regular season when they go into overtime. That's normally how it works in pro football.
Try it out in the playoffs and see what happens.
Yep.
Robert, what are your thoughts on that?
I say baby steps, but definitely not enough. The problem with it is right now is that even though each team is going to get the ball, it's still dependent upon who wins the coin toss. So whoever gets the ball third still got that because they won a coin toss, instead of giving each team a ball at the same spot. So I think someday it'll make it to there, and it'll make a little more sense.
Okay, I'm going to give an alternative position on this. Let's say that you're in the playoffs and you're the top defensive team in the league. and the other team is an average defensive team and a better than average offensive team. If the offensive team wins the toss, do you not have an advantage because you're the best defensive team in the league?
If you watch the Chiefs-Bills game from this past postseason, no. Because anybody can score really quickly, and you never want to let the ball go.
But if you kick the ball, I understand, but if you kick the ball off, aren't you supposed to hold them and not let them score?
You're supposed to.
Yeah.
But then they start playing the prevent the win defense, and it all goes downhill.
I think we talked about that at lunch, didn't we? Prevent defense, all it does is prevent you from winning. But I don't know. I like the idea of the sudden death. All things equal, I can accept this. I don't think it's going to ruin the game, but I think I like it the way things are. I wish they would have just. Rules have got to stop changing at some point in time. I mean, there's so much now for safety, and they protect the quarterback so much, and targeting. The game has just changed so much, and I'm truly a purist.
And I agree with what you're saying about all of those rules changes, but when you look at this rule change, this is just a knee-jerk reaction to a bad playoff experience. If you go back to the Cowboys-Packers game where they said Bryant didn't actually dive towards the end zone, they changed that rule right afterwards. After Tom Brady fumbled the ball, yes, he fumbled the ball, they changed the tuck rule. So these are all just lazy changes that should have happened before they came into conflict.
Well, of course, they changed the rule about pass interference. I mean, they still don't know what pass interference is. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Chuck. That's why I kind of stopped watching pro football, because it got. I mean, to me, pro football just ought to go to two-hand touch. I mean, you can't tackle anybody, and I think you ought to go to two-hand touch. I mean, it's just like I want somebody to get out there and play football.
I do too, and that's kind of.
Let's play football.
That's kind of my disdain with the targeting rule, because if two guys are running at full speed and one guy lowers his head just a little bit more than the other guy, it becomes a targeting rule when they're both just playing football. Absolutely. If you're making a football move, right, heads are going to meet. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do. Look at the interior line. It happens every play. Yep. To penalize somebody, now you can't look into this man's and tell what his intent is. I mean, if somebody's running in the open field and he lowers his head and cracks into his head, I get it. Right. But calling every time helmets touch is just way too much for me.
Yeah, and I mean, refs should. I mean, the refs know. I mean, even your players know if it's flagrant or not. And I mean, and there's some people that are just plain headhunters, and some of them, I'm glad they've got in trouble. But I mean, sometimes you're just sitting there going, used to when you would play, the coach would always say, put your helmet in the chest. I mean, and then when the head comes up, you hit him in the chest, the head's going to go back, and they call that a targeting now. So like I say, it's just come to the point of, let's just go to two-hand touch or flag football. We'll just figure out how to get the scholarships. We'll be fine. Nobody will get hurt then.
Yeah, I'll never forget a specific game. I can't remember who Green Bay was passing, but what's the guy with the long hair? Matthews. I can't remember what his first name was.
Clay
Matthews, yeah, went to USC, played, and he hit a quarterback as hard as you could hit him, but I thought he hit him legally, and he landed on top of him, and they called him for unnecessary roughing. What's he supposed to do? Just push him over? I mean, you're supposed to tackle the quarterback. They protect the quarterbacks way too much, which gets back to the overtime rule. They want more offense in the game, but defense is just as much a part of the NFL as the offense.
Absolutely, and if you remember back to a national championship game, the game was Auburn and Oregon. There is a play in the last 2 minutes of the game where the Oregon defender tackles him, but the Auburn running back rolls over top of him and continues to run.
I totally remember that.
And those are the plays that change the dynamic of how a defense is supposed to attack, because you tell a guy you want to hit him, but then you tell him, hey, I want you to let up on him. So here's a guy who let up on him, and he cost his team possibly a national championship. So there's such a fine line. I don't like it.
It's horrible. I can't stand it. And so we bring that up about the rules because there's a new football league starting in days now, and it's called the USFL is returning.
Is Pepper Rogers going to come back and coach the Memphis Shockers?
No, but Herschel Walker is going to play for the Birmingham Stallions.
I like it. I like it. Did he get traded from the New Jersey
Is that when
I
he's a
think so.
senator? Or
No, between sessions he's going to play. Yeah.
So he got traded from New Jersey, and now he's going to Birmingham. I like it.
Well, it's closer to the Senate here in Georgia.
I like it. I like it.
So the reason I bring up the USFL is we talked a little bit about the NFL rules. There's some crazy crap going on in the USFL, and I got a little printout here to talk about some of them. Rusty was talking about extra points a while ago. Kick the ball or run it in for 2. No, not in the USFL. In the USFL, a scoring team will have 3 options to attempt extra points. Teams will have 1 point for a successful kick, snapped at the 15, just like they do in the NFL. 2 points for successful scrimmage play from the 2-yard line, just like they do in the NFL. But for a 10-yard play, you can now get 3 extra points. So you can have as many as 9 points on one drive. Rusty's just shaking his head. Supposedly, the fact teams trailing by 9 or less points now have an opportunity to close the gap to 1 score.
Lord, please save us. Just save us.
everybody gets a present, everybody gets a trophy, and nobody's out of the game.
Exactly.
I mean, really, let's just go back to. I mean, I'm tired of these leagues coming up and thinking, oh, we're going to make football exciting. We're going to, come on.
Make it more exciting when it's the most watched sport in the world.
This is not the Harlem Globetrotters playing football, folks. It's football.
All right, instant replay real quick. USFL replay command at Fox Sports Control in LA will make all replay decisions. 1 replay crew will make all decisions, and coaches will only have 1 challenge a game.
Well, is that, you said LA, right? So
Yeah.
that means they, okay. So I guess hopefully the team that throws the flag has a wokeness in them. So.
Improved game flow. That's the thing. Remember, no politics. All right, kickoffs. All kickoffs will be from the 25-yard line. I like that rule, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're kicking from the 35, you're taking the kickoff out of the game. Because everybody can kick the ball into the end zone now. It's whether you want to punch it up in the air and try to stop a run back or not.
But doesn't the pros, don't they kick from the 25?
No, they kick from the 35.
Really?
Yeah.
How about college? Doesn't college kick from
35.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. Everybody kicks off from 35.
That would be interesting because you better have a good guy that can catch the football and run it back because that's going to be exciting instead of kicking it in the
So
end.
you'd watch the USFL for that?
Well, probably not. It's getting baseball season for crying out.
Okay. All right. Other thing, onside kick. I love this one. This is hilarious. Teams will have 2 options to retain possession of the ball after scoring. The first will be a traditional onside kick attempt from the 25-yard line. So now you're punishing yourself because you're 10 yards further back than you are in the NFL. But here's the fun one. The second opportunity will be running a 4th down play, 4th and 12 from their own 33-yard line. If you pick up the first down, you retain the ball. If it fails, then the defense gets the ball. What do you think?
Might as well throw deep every play because nothing really matters in this league.
That's just one play. If you pick up 12 yards, you get the ball back.
Well, okay.
Or you keep the ball.
But so if you're on your side of the field, instead of you got a choice of either punting or I'm going to go for it on 4th down, well, the way I look at it is if I've got a good quarterback and a good group of receivers, I'm chunking it. I'm going to get that 12 yards.
It's only an onside kick. It's not.
It's an onside kick. It's just to pick up the first down.
It's a 12-yard
It's just to
play.
pick up a 12-yard play. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, then I don't like that.
A shout out to a buddy of mine, Hal
That's
Mead.
awful.
He's got a nephew, Nick Vogel, who was drafted as a kicker for the Houston Gamblers. So hopefully we'll see him do some of this.
Is his
stuff in the
dad
near
named
future.
Nick Vogel too?
I think
I
it
know
might
him.
be. I think it might be.
Used to work with Pepsi.
There you go.
I know Nick real well. That's funny. Commonalities.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about a 4th and 12. It's basically 4th and 12 at your own 33 to keep a ball. Will it get people to watch? I don't know. Overtime. Overtime will be the best of a 3-play shootout. Each team's offense will alternate plays against the opposing defense from the 2-yard line. Each successful scoring attempt will receive 2 points. The team with the most points after 3 plays wins. The subsequent attempts become sudden death if the score is tied after each team runs 3 plays. The overtime period will extend until the winners are cleared. So it's basically what they do in the 3rd overtime in college.
Yeah.
You run a play from the 2-yard line 3 times, and the team with the most points wins. And if you're still tied, it goes to sudden death.
And I want to say, though,
I'm afraid you do.
That was exciting to watch, that type of overtime. I mean, there were some good games. But the first time I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome.
It was Penn State and Illinois, I think, that went to 11 overtimes or something like that. They went 11 overtimes, and the final score was 21-19 or something like that.
It was 11 overtimes, and the under still hit.
And the under still hit, which is crazy. So I don't know. Punts, gunners may not line up on the outside the numbers. They cannot be double team blocked until the ball is kicked. The clock will stop for first downs inside 2 minutes of the second and fourth quarters. Create more offensive plays during the final 2 minutes of each half. That's kind of weird. But my favorite one is the defensive pass interference rule. Russ, I know you're going to love this.
I can't wait.
The penalty for defensive pass interference will mirror the NCAA rules with exceptions. First, the defender intentionally tackling the receiver beyond 15 yards would become a spot foul, which is kind of the way it is now, college and pro, right?
Yeah.
Not college.
Not college, it comes back to the 15. Also, the penalty will be a spot foul if it occurs 15 yards or less from the line of scrimmage, the penalty, if the spot foul is beyond 15 yards. So, how are they gonna judge that if the guy's intentionally tackling him? It's
the refs are so bad in college and pros. I mean, are they actually going to see the guy tackling him? I mean, is that how they're going to? Because if they're going to watch it, they're not watching it.
Well, the refs that you're talking about are the best in the business. This is not going to get the best in the business.
They said that it's going to be the Power 5 college conference referees that are going to come referee these USFL games.
And if you've ever watched a TCU and SMU game, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think the worst refs are the ACC refs. They are terrible.
That's because you're a Bulldog fan. That's the only reason you think that.
They're awful.
All right. Offensive pass interference. If a pass does not cross the line of scrimmage, there can be no pass interference or ineligible player downfield penalties. I like that. I don't have an issue with that. 2 forward passes. It will no longer be illegal to throw 2 forward passes from behind the line of scrimmage. So I guess if you throw it to somebody short of the line of scrimmage, they can still heave it.
So I don't have to make sure you're a yard behind me anymore.
Or a foot behind me or whatever.
As long as you're behind the line of scrimmage.
All right, so
I think let's just call this the USFL. It's big Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes football.
Looney Tunes football.
Coming to you from Hanna-Barbera.
Well, there's really only one place for the USFL, and that's to be somewhere in between college and pro. They're never going to be the NFL. They're not college anymore. So I just hope they don't turn it into such a theatrical mess that you lose that. Because right now you're basically going to get the old players and people who weren't drafted. And there's a decent chance for those who weren't drafted, they might get a job in the NFL in a year or two.
And that's what I wanted to talk about more, but who's going to play in the USFL?
Well, true, though, and it's a shame. And it's funny. YouTube's got some of the old USFL teams, and it's a shame that league did not stay like what we're talking about here is in between college and the pro game. They would have been really, really successful because they had some really good football.
All right.
And
so in game, Russ, are you going to watch the USFL?
No.
Robert, are you going to watch the USFL?
Except for when my buddy's nephew's playing.
That's wild. Well, let me tell you this. I'm going to watch, only because I love football. Football is my favorite spectator sport, and if I can watch it in the spring to some form or fashion other than a spring game, I'm going to watch football. I just love it. That's a personal decision. I appreciate you, Russ, not wanting to watch. Robert, you too. But I'm probably going to watch. It gives me something to do, and I love football. So I'll watch it and see what goes on. We'll be talking about it here on the show some more.
By the time it starts, the Georgia spring game will be on, so nobody will really watch anything until they watch the...
that'll take a whole day. Yeah.
You know they will.
All right.
We're going to treat it like a regular football game.
Of course. Robert, welcome to the show today. Tell us a little bit what you do.
Actually, I install ignition interlocks in people's cars. I have locations in Carrollton, Canton, and Kennesaw, and my wife has a driving school, Kennesaw Driving School and Canton Driving School. So I kind of piggyback off of that, and we're all about making the world a safer place. Cheers.
cheers to a safer place. And Stormy's a good friend, and happy that she introduced me to Robert. We get Robert on the show. So we're not going to watch spring football. You two guys aren't. Are you going to watch the Masters next week?
Absolutely.
You better believe it. I mean, I'm even mastered up today. I'm a week early just because I'm excited.
I got to tell you, the one thing, I work from home, and I have one rule in my house, is the television does not come on before 5:30 when I'm working at home, except for
4 days.
The 4 golf majors,
You better
and the Masters is one of them. I'll watch every minute. I was watching clips this morning of Hideki Matsuyama talking about how much it meant to him, and I'm tearing up. I love the Masters as much as I love football. I've been 3 times to the Masters. It's a fabulous place to walk, but from my perspective, the coolest story of the week is Tiger Woods may play in the Masters next Thursday. Have you seen this?
Yes.
So he walked a full 18 holes yesterday, and I waited as long as I could today to watch and see if anything else came out about whether he announced he was going to play or not. Would you like to see Tiger play?
I would love to see Tiger play. I love Tiger.
Well, I used to be on the opposite side. I used to hate Tiger. I didn't want Tiger to win anything. I didn't like his arrogance. But I think with age, he has matured. He has become a better person. And I actually pull for Tiger now. I hate it when he had his wreck. He continues to amaze me. Everything he's done, the surgeries, the knees, the back, the stuff he's come back from. But if he comes back from this wreck and plays 4 rounds next Saturday, I will be blown away. Literally blown away.
Just to play the 4 rounds.
Just to play the 4
Absolutely.
rounds.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine. Basically, they were going to amputate his leg a year ago. They were going to amputate his leg, and here he is playing. And Augusta National is not a flat golf course.
No.
It is hills, and more hills. And for him to be able to hold that, I can't wait to see if he's going to play. If he does, I'll be watching every minute of it.
Well, he did good on when he and his son played, but by that,
Charlie.
I just read that at 36 holes, when it got, later on, they had to actually get a cart, and he was carted around to make sure. So he may play 18. And the sad thing about it is they're going to talk about him more than any other golfer that's in range of doing something, because you got the FedEx Cup, you got all that kind of stuff. What bothers me about Tiger, I think his game, sure he won the last Masters.
Not the last one.
The year or two before, but
yeah.
But I just, to me as a golfer, he is not just golf. There's other good golfers out there, but the golf show, the PGA show on your TV, that's all they talk about. And you know what? It's time that, they didn't talk about Jack Nicklaus as much as they talk about. And he's done a lot more than Tiger Woods has. And they never talked about him that much. There was other golfers. That's what bothers me about Tiger, is they centered golf around him, and sure, he's good. I'll give him all the credit in the world. He has done more for golf than except for Jack. He's done more for golf. But you know what? There's other golfers out there that are pretty good golfers, and they need to be talked about too.
There's some great golfers out there. Jack's my favorite golfer of all time. Tiger is coming close to second. I like Tiger now. They're different eras. The media when Jack played was nothing like what it is now. I mean, they had 3 ABC, CBS, and NBC when Jack was playing golf. Now there's a golf channel that you can watch 24 hours a day. And you're right, they do talk a lot about Tiger. But the other players talk a lot about Tiger too, and how much he's heightened the game. And you got to give it, Russ, when he's there, the excitement is heightened to no end. And I don't think that's going to weigh until he just says, I'm done. But there are some great golfers out there. Justin Thomas. I love JT. My favorite golfer is Rory McIlroy right now. I like Colin Morikawa. Scotty Scheffler is the new #1 in the world. I watched him play the match play in Austin, Texas, and won over the weekend. He's a good golfer. There's a lot of good golfers out there. Koepka,
He loves showing up at times. Like
DeChambeau.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me say this real quick about
please do.
Tiger versus Jack. When Jack played, and I love Jack. I'm from Ohio. I was trained to love Jack at an early age. Jack didn't have as much competition. There weren't as many people playing golf. You know, it's kind of like comparing Nick Saban's winning streak to Knute Rockne's. Knute Rockne could buy everybody a brand new car and you would have never known it. We know Saban's not doing it because they're watching him with a magnifying glass. What Tiger was able to do at a time where all there is parity was amazing and something that will never be replicated, I believe.
I believe that's right, unless it's a new generation. Unless they change the rules like they're doing in football.
And I hope they don't do too much with Tiger in the cart because, you know, we're talking about all these knee-jerk rule changes. After Tiger has to bow out on Saturday, people are going to start saying, you should be able to ride in a cart.
But
That's a good point.
Hey, that's a good point. And if you will remember, a pro golfer who did have a leg problem.
I remember that.
Casey
tried
Martin.
to do that, and they wouldn't
correct.
let him do it. He actually
But he wasn't
tried to
Tiger.
walk.
He went to court.
He went to court, and I think he lost.
Yeah,
He did.
He lost.
Yeah,
that.
Casey Martin was his name.
Correct.
So to me, I think that would be fishy if they say, "Oh, Tiger, you can have a cart and not let anybody else."
Well, I'll tell you this. I have enough admiration for Tiger to say Tiger would not accept it. I don't think Tiger would want to change the game
Well, he's not
just
gonna
to
be
suit
there
his
the final
game.
day anyway. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, like I said, if he walks 2 days, I'm overly impressed.
Sure.
If he walks, just what he did yesterday, walking 18 with Charlie and Justin Thomas. What an amazing thing to do after almost having your leg amputated a year ago.
If he can walk around and play the par 3, it's still impressive.
Absolutely. To play that with Charlie as a host, or his daughter, I can't remember what his daughter's name is. But I am just so blown away by what Tiger has done from a rehabilitation standpoint.
I don't know, but you better watch out for Charlie because he is a good golfer to be as young as he is.
Well-
he might be the next guy.
You never know.
He's a good golfer.
There are so many good young golfers out there right now.
He is a good golfer.
I really like Colin Morikawa. I'll never forget the shot he hit in the PGA or one of the tournaments a couple of years ago in 16 when he hit a drive that rolled about 10 feet from the hole, 390-something yards, curved it about 40 feet. Amazing talent out there. And if anybody out there has golf passes for the Masters next week and can't go, please feel free to send those here.
That is true.
And speaking of the Masters, we're going to have a little tournament here. If you can tell us who's going to win the Masters, text it in to 470-777-6787. 470-777-6787. And speaking of Masters of Golf, we have Mr. Pearson calling in. Steve, how's that golf game?
Well, it's not ready for Augusta, but I would love to play it.
There you go.
I just trying to hang on right now. Chuck, you started the show and asked why isn't anybody listening? Why are people listening to ESPN and aren't listening to us? And I don't even know where to start there, so I'm just going to stop. There's probably a handful of reasons.
Money?
But in terms of bragging about expertise in picking games, I think I won most of my pools last year, and in my ESPN pool, I'm quite proud that I moved from number 13 million to number 10 million in the latest rounds, but I only have downside left because I have no other wins remaining. You can brag about how you do in 1 year, but quite honestly, you can play this tournament again starting next week, and you'd have a totally different outcome. It's a crazy game of, 5-on-5 matchups and, people getting hot at the right times. And, that's what makes March Madness so much fun, is the parity in the game. And by the way, Villanova's coach is not, I don't know who Vaughn is, but it's Jay Wright.
Jay Wright, thank you, yeah.
I
I was right about wrong.
I will say this, the predictions of Kansas blowing out anybody, they're very possible, but they couldn't even score against Providence in the first half. That was a rock fight of rock fights. And if they don't play that poorly, they could get beat by anyone. And Villanova, they may not be deep, but sometimes hurt teams rally. I don't know who to pick in that game. I think it should be a pretty good game. And the North Carolina Duke game, it's probably going to be the most watched game, but quite frankly, I'm not interested in it at all because both of those teams can't lose if they play each other. So the women's number ones, there are always more women's number ones in the tournament. First of all, they get a first and second round home game. And like you guys said, there's less parity. Connecticut's made an incredible run of 14 straight Final Fours, but I do have to feel bad for North Carolina State being a number one seed and having to play their Final Four game against Connecticut in Bridgeport. Probably wasn't exactly a fair shake for them, and the fact that they took that game to double overtime, you have to feel for them. It was a terrific game, and either team could have won. Give a lot of credit to UConn, though. 14 straight Final Fours is pretty crazy. I'm afraid with the NIL and the portal, the transfer portal, I hope the men's game stays as with the parity that it has, and we don't end up going to what folks like Coach Huggins at West Virginia, where he just wants to invite the top 64 teams and shut out the mid-majors. I think it would ruin the tournament, but I'm afraid that's probably where we're going. You guys mentioned the NFL targeting rule. I don't know, maybe you have been, and maybe it shows, but I don't know if you've ever been hit helmet to helmet. I have in my brief football career, and maybe that's part of the problem now, and certainly not the level of speed and strength that these guys in the NFL have. Maybe they should relax some of the technical pieces of it, but it's not about just getting hurt. It's about concussions and CTE, and that stuff's just, I don't know. I'm very thankful that my athletic son decided not to play high school football. Because it's a man's game. Even with all the rules changes to protect people, it is a vicious and rough game, and it's a fun game to watch. But quite honestly, the player safety thing that has to come into play. The USFL rules is pretty interesting. I think they're gimmicks, and I think it's gimmicks to watch to keep the 100 people that are watching on TV, and they're watching a blowout game, and it keeps them watching, because if you get 9 points, for one possession, and then you can have this option to keep the ball with a 12-yard pass, you're probably never out of the game. It's almost like a jump ball after a made basket. If you got a good quarterback, you're probably not out of the game. It's going to make for some incredible comebacks, and it's going to make for some incredible Vegas backdoor covers, I'm sure. And if you're a new league in the USFL, you probably need some gimmicks to keep people watching. And you guys mentioned the kickoffs, and maybe kickoffs are exciting, but man, I would not want to be on the kick return team with these guys running 4.640s and weighing 260 pounds and coming after me as somebody that's trying to block them. But I guess the USFL's healthy players don't seem to matter. I wouldn't want to be on the kick return team, USFL or Pee Wee League right now. I think Tiger will play in the Masters. I don't think he'll make a cut, but it certainly will increase the viewership and the interest in the Masters, if it's even possible to increase the viewership and interest. You have to admire Tiger's perseverance and his mental toughness. He certainly is not playing for the money. He's not playing for fame. He's not playing for any of the reasons that maybe you and I would play for. He's playing because he's He wants to prove that he can play. And, you have to admire that. He knows every blade of grass in Augusta, but I don't think it's going to be enough for him to sustain, putting together 2 days enough to make the cut. But I think he'll play.
I hope he does.
You guys talked about golf and are they going to change the rules? They're not going to allow cards in the PGA. They already allow them in the senior tournaments, but the golf game has changed significantly. Maybe the rules haven't changed all that much, other than drops and some things. But with the equipment that they're making and all the research that's going into balls and number of dimples and spins rates and all of the tools that they have to measure spin rates and how to get a launch factors in with golf equipment, they can't make courses long enough, and I think the game has changed significantly, and I think it'll continue to change. There's just not any way you can't make them. You can't. Some of these old courses you can't turn these things into 500-yard par fours because guys are hitting at 350.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my 4 cents. With inflation, it used to be 10 cents, but now it's 4 cents.
It's down to 4 cents. Hey, real quick, Steve, share the story of Murray State and what you told me on the phone earlier today about their basketball players.
Oh yeah, well we had an incredible run this year, 31-3. Got upset by St. Peter's in the round of 32. Lost the coach a few days later to LSU. Matt McMahon took the job at LSU. And, we lost a handful of seniors. We lost a couple of COVID folks that were eligible that have declared for the NBA. One has hired an agent. One has not hired an agent. But of and we had one other player that graduated. But of the 13 guys on scholarship, not counting the 2 seniors, would make 11 guys on scholarship. 10 have declared for the transfer portal. So it's crazy to think that you have one scholarship player, and he was the 4th post player. To have one scholarship player back on your staff. There are over 1,000 people already in the transfer portal out of probably you got 300 teams and times 13 players, so you probably got 4,500 players. Probably 1,000 of them have graduated, so you got 3,500 people coming back in the NCAA, and to think that a third of them are in the transfer portal, this is crazy stuff. I mean, this is free agency in amateur sports.
Absolutely. All right, Steve.
And quite honestly, I think it's going to hurt the game in a lot of ways. I think it's going to kill the mid-majors. But I also think it's going to drive fans away because fans like to see a player go 4 years for their school or 3 years for their school. Kentucky gets a lot of flack for the one and dones, but you're going to have a lot more one and dones because in all places because the kid's going to play 1 year and he's going to try to better his playing time if he's not getting enough by dropping down, or better his draft stock by moving up. And you're going to have kids playing for the name on the back of their jerseys, not on the front.
Yeah. Well, all right, Steve. Well, we appreciate Pearson's points today.
Hey, I just want to say I did pick Murray State over Kentucky. I missed it by 1 game. But I had your back, buddy. I had your back. Murray State over Kentucky.
We picked the worst time of the year to play our worst game of the year.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
You roll with it. Yeah, and if we'd won that game, we would have lost our coach a week later.
That's true, too.
All right, Steve. We appreciate Pearson's points today, and take care of yourself.
Thanks.
Hey, talking about coaches' changes, did you hear the guy that the head coach at St. Peter's has left for Seton Hall? And yeah,
I had not heard that.
And the San Francisco coach that we all kind of thought was so good is now at Florida. Since Mike White went to Georgia, they got the San Francisco coach from to Florida. So a lot of those teams that were in the 64, they've lost their coaches.
It's an incredible time in college sports right now with changing coaches, changing players. As we all know, I'm not a friend of the transfer portal at all in any sport.
What Steve just said there about had they won that game, somebody would have stolen the coach. Well, they lost those games. They lost 10 players. They're probably going to lose the coach anyway because if
he's already gone.
Because if all your players leave, they're probably not going to keep you around.
And they hired a guy back that used to coach at Murray State that went to Iowa State, and now he's back at Murray State. Gotcha. Steve's got a good friend that's the president of Murray State, so he gets all the scoop to what's going on at Murray State. But quite a show. What would you take? What's your number one take from the show today, Robert?
The USFL really wants to be relevant and interesting. I don't know that they're either, but they want to be.
I agree. The legend?
Well, folks, Tiger Woods going to play, but he's not going to make it Saturday and Sunday. So, for those that are wishing that to happen, go ahead and turn your TV, turn your channel. He's not going to be there. We're actually going to see some good golf play. And I really hope Duke wins, but they're not.
No, I'm still pulling for Kansas. I've got Kansas winning it, and I have since the very beginning, right, Russ?
You have.
All right. So I'm on the Jayhawk bandwagon this week. Next week, like I said, we want you to call in and let us know, or text in and let us know who you think you're going to win the Masters, and we'll get you a prize if you can pick the right golfer that is going to win the Masters next week. We thank you for being with us today. Robert, good to have you. Russ, good to have you back. Guys, don't forget to know your numbers, get your prostate checked, cover your ass. See you next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's the guy where you said was traveling to Murray State.
Yeah.
First time okay.
Yeah, he played baseball at Murray State.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic athlete. Most competitive person I've ever met.